you wouldn't even do that unless you had a pretty big open-mindedness about
Yeah.
learning and adopting from another culture to begin with.
Yeah.
Is my opinion on that.
I think from my experience that's been true. I of course was kind of a mix where I loved, we lived in a Russian flat. We lived in a hotel as well for the first 2 months, but 3 years is a long time to kind of live a few places.
Right.
But we largely, we never lived on the American compound. We never lived on a compound of any kind, actually. It was all Russian flats, apartments.
Yeah.
And I do know that was seen as really unusual over there.
Huh.
But I also know that many of the people who lived within these compounds, these areas delegated for the people, the expats, the expatriates as they're known, they tended to remain within that very specific locale. I don't know if it was out of fear. I know that, were you fed, now Turkey of course is very different than Russia as a country, and also in the times we went over there are quite different. I went in the early 90s, you went over there in the 2000s.
Yeah. 2007.
Yeah. So very different times in global history. But I do know that I was fed, and my family was fed, quite a bit of fear. Watch out for the natives. Did you get any of that?
Well, I did not get any.
Hello.
Hi, how are y'all?
It's all right.
I did not get any of that until there was an issue back in, I think, October, where the Turks started bombing northern Iraq, or started attacking northern Iraq.
That's what I understand.
Not to say that there aren't many Kurds in Turkey and that are Turkish citizens.
I see.
So it's not. Even though I've already said it, and unfortunately it can be sound
Well, I mean,
biased,
that's the thing. You can kind of redact as you go.
Okay, so like maybe when you're editing it, you could even take that out.
No, I'm not going to do that.
okay.
But you can explain yourself.
Okay, but even if maybe in the future, if someone could use that against me, it would be.
Well,
it would be.
and this is why it's kind of a ballsy thing to agree to do this, because the question is what we present here of ourselves to anyone else going to be taken out of context? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
A lot of people view my stuff through YouTube, not my site, so they miss a lot of the ancillary details.
Right.
It's out of context. Plus, there's no way you can be us in this scenario, so it's just always out of context. But if you explain yourself, I assure you that I will not edit out the solidity of your answer.
No, I'm not worrying about that part. I'm just worrying about someone in the future just taking that part I already said.
Yes.
And just being misusing that part. And
yes.
Of course, they wouldn't worry about the explication.
Sure. Well, they very well may.
Yeah.
It's the world.
That's too bad.
It is too bad, world.
Yeah. There's a PKK. That's a terrorist organization.
Oh.
It's only certain Kurds that are fighting for the PKK, and it's Turkey versus this terrorist organization called PKK.
PKK. Okay.
Because there are millions of Kurds that are ensconced into the Turkish society.
Okay.
And there's mixture. And it'd be as silly as saying, like Arabs and Americans are somehow inherently opposed.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
When there's been a mixture, and
Right.
it's America versus Arab.
Right.
So I want to be very accurate there. I misspoke, but so you have that division, and where was I coming from? Do you remember?
Well, I mean, in general, you explained to me the differences between how the people within the country of Turkey understand and approach themselves.
Yeah.
And in turn, this is of course a paraphrase. This is what I'm getting out of it. It's my interpretation. But and then in turn, rather, how you tend to mix, because you're basically what you're explaining is that you have to basically, correct me if I'm wrong, you have to basically assess the values of two sides within one nation, political, social, economic, all this stuff, and then as an outsider, specifically an American but with Turkish heritage, go forth into that.
Sure.
So the question is, where do you find yourself as the expat, as as the native Arkansan, right? Arkansas, you're
Yeah,
native.
that's right.
Finding yourself fitting into this.
Into
Do you
that
find that you are having the American abroad stereotype, if there is one, railed at you? Or are you pretty much good to go because you've made it clear and it's known that you're uploading and absorbing their culture?
No, me somehow, I was not tagged as an American just visually.
Really? Okay.
No.
Perhaps it's your heritage.
Most people thought I was Turkish. I mean,
Okay.
I'm sorry. Most people thought I was German.
German. Okay.
Because I don't look Turkish.
Okay.
Actually, I mean, Turks are generally much darker skin,
Okay.
darker hair, black, brown eyes.
Okay.
Kind of even swarthy features. So, some could say. Some could say.
Sure.
could say.
Now, and we're not endorsing bigotry or stereotyping. Nonetheless, features are kind of labeled like that.
Okay, I mean,
Like for instance, she was very fair-skinned, skin of yolk, as you said, and there are pleasant ideas that come. You're like, oh. Whereas
swarthy was an adjective that maybe never was used with great benevolence.
right, exactly.
Right. So maybe, but at the same time, it does conjure up images. Of, I don't know,
Pirates for
Sinbad,
me.
Sinbad, right?
Sinbad. Okay.
And there was
okay.
plenty of Ottoman pirates that
sure,
we know
right.
about from
That's
our,
true.
from our Othello
That's true.
and from history.
In using this term, and I'm not trying to nail here, but I'm saying in using this term, do you feel that is something that they kind of take in the same way we Americans kind of arrogance is what I think some people would label us as. That's kind of slimy. Americans
Well,
are kind of slimy. If I had to use a similar word,
okay.
for my
Oh.
that's my understanding.
Oh, okay.
When people think of Americans, from my experience abroad, they tend to think of us as very slippery, very slick, two-sided. You got us, but you don't have us.
Two-sided. Americans are seen as that. That's interesting.
Opportunistic to the nth degree.
Wow.
Yeah. That's again, we're kind of delving into stereotype land.
Right here.
And in doing so, there's no real place to stake your claim. It's all just kind of, nothing stays put in stereotype land.
Yeah.
But
It's yet to be Google mapped for certain.
correct.
Right.
Nor should it be, because the idea of its, if you tried to map this sort of thing, people would invent a whole new system. Because stereotypes need to be somewhat ambiguous in order to maintain their use. Because if people really know what they're saying, chances are they'll want to say more properly what they're thinking. Well, let's just stick them in, let's just go with the skin color. This guy was so-and-so skin color, and a number of ideas are conjured up because of just general casual conversations you have.
Right.
At least that's my take. Enough about the, or rather, let's
I mean,
go on to
by
smarter.
using that term, I just meant like some Turks can be extremely dark skinned. Extremely black hair.
Sure.
I mean, these people have been in the sun a long time.
Okay.
And so they have those.
Is it desert terrain?
In parts of Turkey, it has every terrain.
I've never been to Turkey.
Yeah, in the southeast there is it's by Syria, and
Okay.
there actually is desert in that area of the country. There's mountainous terrain in the central and the eastern area.
Okay.
There is kind of temperate forest in the northern region.
Nice. Wow.
Real
Quite a bit of
extremely
variety.
green. And yeah, in the west you have coast, beaches, kind of dry, arid, more plains and rolling hills. And
Wow.
Turkey is one of the 3 or 4 only nations in the world that can create all of their food.
That's
within
fantastic.
within
That's a serious
continent.
advantage.
It is, and it creates really good food.
Oh, yeah, I imagine.
Also.
I imagine.
I mean, the local food is wondrous, and I actually lost weight eating this local food over there that wasn't chock full of preservatives.
Really?
All of these additives that they.
That's
can add
awesome.
in. Yeah.
That's really cool. I know it's a real hot spot, a hot spot for the Ruskies, Turkey.
Yes, it is.
And that's because of it was one of the few places you could go during the vacation, I believe during the communist era under Stalin.
Really?
And the like.